Hi there, TaffyRue here, and welcome to another special episode of Features by TaffyRue, where we get to put the spotlight on young, upcoming artists and creatives who are bubbling under. I'm not going to do a long intro today because I've got a very special guest with me in studio. Mass, hi.
Hi, Taffy. Why are you laughing?
I was looking forward to hearing your first words on the podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on this side of the camera today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's not easy, but I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So, like I mentioned, this is a special episode of Features by TaffyRue because it is our final episode for season 1. And we thought that we could just sit down in front of the camera, maybe do a recap of season 1 of Features by TaffyRue.
Yeah.
And then maybe get to know the people who are behind the whole production as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you enjoy this episode, and let's get straight into it. Right. So hi, Mas.
Hi, Taffy.
So for those people who don't know, who is Mas?
Okay. My name is Masimba Leon Nhamburo. I'm a photographer. I'm a videographer. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And I think that has a lot to do with what I do and who I am.
By introduction.
Wow. I'm married to Taffy. She's my wife.
Yeah.
And we've got a beautiful daughter. Her name is Anaishe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I was expecting more questions before I get into it. But in brief, that's me. I'm a photographer. I'm a videographer. That's the work that I do. And that's the work I've been doing behind the scenes on Features by TaffyRue.
Yeah. So how does it feel to be in front of the camera today?
I think I feel like how the other guys feel.
What feeling is that?
It's a bit hot in here, don't you think? With all the lights and the cameras, I guess it makes it all look so serious.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what puts pressure. But otherwise, I'm okay. I'm happy to be in front of the camera. It's a bit weird because I get to see other people and encourage them to relax in front of the camera. And now I have to relax.
Yes.
I guess some of my concerns are wondering if the cameras are recording.
Yeah.
And if nothing will go wrong, if the audio is recording properly.
Yes.
Because I guess we're doing it by ourselves in here, and there's no one monitoring the cameras and the audio. And I guess that's what makes me a bit concerned, besides just being interviewed and talking. Because also, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be talking about in this season, because this episode, because I don't really think it's more about me. I think it's more about talking about what we're doing through Features by TaffyRue and what goes into the work.
Yeah. Definitely. I think we're just going to be talking about a lot of things. I think people know us, right, for a number of different things. But I think it'll be great for them to maybe know a bit more in terms of you as a filmmaker, as someone who is, behind the production for a lot of the things that I do. And then just, maybe seeing a personal side as well. Like me, where drawing the curtain a little bit on our lives. Yeah. I think one thing that we found when we were shooting weddings way back when, people were like, husband and wife working together, how is that? Maybe we can start from there.
Yeah.
How has it been working with with me, with your wife?
Are you sure you want to know?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so, well, I think it's been interesting working together as husband and wife. I think we get to talk about the day before it actually happens, get to prepare for it together, get to be on the same page, have the same vision. I think with working with different people, I think one thing that's really different about working together is that we kind of are interested in the outcome or in the success of this project. Because it does affect our income, it does
Yes.
affect our business, and we're both owners of the business. And I think that's where the pressure comes in, whereby we really want to see it succeed, and we really want to take our work to the next level with every project. So working together has been interesting because we get to. I can trust you. I think that's where it makes a big difference. Whereby I know that whatever you're doing, you're making sure that it works. So you find when we're doing weddings, at first we used to go to the bride side together, and then later on, you were more responsible for the bride side, and then I would go to the groom side and make sure that both sides we've got something solid.
Yeah,
And weddings have got a lot of pressure.
definitely.
So yeah, I think that's some of what it was like and the advantages that were there. But I think in terms of the disadvantages and the pressures that will come is if we disagree on something,
Yes.
it could affect the whole team. It could affect the whole day. And we've had disagreements. But I think what keeps us going is that even beyond the disagreement, what makes us work together is that we're interested in the success of the project and the outcome. So we are willing to put that aside and deal with why we're there. But I think some of the pressures come because we want to see something succeed, and we are all trying to do our best and share our point of view and try and get what we want to come to pass.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it has been amazing working with you. I think we've been able to share the same vision in terms of, putting our best foot forward in whatever it is that we do. So if it's weddings, if it's other things, but like you're mentioning, that obviously with those good things, there are also like the disadvantages of working together in terms of being on the same page, because it's not a guarantee that we'll be on the same page 100% of the time. And how do you think we manage to cope through that? So you talked about how we can trust in the fact that we both want the best outcome for the business, because it definitely affects our income, for example, right? But how else do you think we manage to cope, with the disagreements?
Well, obviously by the grace of God.
Amen.
It could only be by the grace of God, because things could get really bad. But yeah, I think with God's help, we're able to do it. And just like everything else that we do, it's by the grace of God, helping us to be able to do that. I think loving each other, loving the person, and I guess knowing that you're dealing with a human being, somebody who also makes mistakes, somebody who also gets things wrong. And if, in some cases, you might be the one who's wrong, so you're willing to let go of that thing and be okay with the other person getting the advantage. And I guess it comes down to humility, just being humble, and allowing the other person to have it their way. I think we've had situations, not just us, having challenges working together, but dealing with difficult clients.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had clients whereby it's their day. You need to understand it's their wedding day. And even if you don't fully agree with what they're suggesting, I think sometimes it's just willing to suggest what you want, but then if they don't agree, to go along with their plan, but then try to make it work,
Yeah.
even though you know that it's making things difficult for you.
Mm-hmm.
So being humble, because I think we've had situations whereby we've shot a wedding, we've been invited as the official photographers,
Mm-hmm.
but then a relative invites another photographer they know
Yeah.
who's done maybe their wedding or
Mm-hmm.
family photos or something,
Yeah.
and then we have to share the day and share responsibilities and
Yeah.
allow the other photographer to shoot
Mm-hmm.
and them allowing you to shoot. So we've had to be humble in certain times. So I think, but the humility comes from knowing God,
Yeah.
and I think that's
Yeah, definitely. I think our love for God has definitely helped us to stay humble in times where, you know, things can go horribly wrong. And sometimes it's just as, you know, like I'm always talking about choosing your battles, you know. I think humility allows you to be like, okay, fine, this is not the end of the world if I don't get my way in this particular situation. It's not the end of the world, and I wouldn't want to sacrifice this relationship just because, you know, I have chosen to use a zoom lens over
yeah.
over 50 mil, you know. So yeah, definitely that relationship with God has solidified or enabled us to go over that hump of disagreements when we're working together. I think we could go on and on about weddings, but
Yeah.
maybe we can do a separate podcast, you
On
know,
that.
on weddings, because I think you raised up some.
I'm taking you back.
You've taken me back. Oh my gosh, you've taken me back to when we were doing weddings and all of that. But maybe for those people who don't know, how did you get into this whole media thing?
Wow. It's a long time ago. I was in Form 2.
Wow.
A few days before my sister's birthday, 18th birthday, we were going to have a birthday party. And my father brought home a home video camera from the auction. He wasn't even sure if it worked. So I took the camera, I switched it on. I think, I don't know, put some batteries or something, and it started working. And we got a videotape, like cassettes, I think, back then.
We're exposing our age.
Yes, it was a Sony i8 camera shooting on high 8 tapes or something like that. So basically, that's when I started. It started on my sister's 18th birthday. I couldn't put the camera down after that day because I shot it. I wanted to see it going from the small cassette tape in the camera to the the videotape, so that we can all watch it as a family. So it took a few months actually before we could actually move it from that small tape to the videotape, because I didn't have the information. So I asked my friend, my best friend in high school, and then he was like, this is how they do it at home, using AV cables from the camera to the VCR. So we had to buy AV cables, and then we had to buy a blank tape video VCR, and then we had to record the video onto that. So that was my first experience with moving footage from raw footage onto a final product. And from there, I guess, event after event, I couldn't stop filming every event that I attended. I got a better camera. I got support from my parents, basically. So my father bought the first camera. My mom bought all the other cameras that followed after that. And my father supported me like in buying the small gadgets that I needed to get going until I started video editing on the computer. And yeah, it's been a journey.
Tell us about the time where when you recorded a music video and people were pretending to be...
Yeah. I've told you that story a number of times.
I remember you telling me that it was like almost like full circle for you when I finally did the song with Pastor G.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us what that was like and versus then working with the actual Pastor G.
So the song Walk Alone by Pastor G, when it came out, it was one of the songs that I enjoyed listening to. I enjoyed the rap that was in that song, and then Prime Minister's parts with the Zim dance, or it was not yet Zim dance at that time, but the reggae, the style. So my neighbors, because I was still learning how to edit at that time. I think that was like one of my first projects that I attempted to edit a music video. So I just asked my neighbors um, to help me with that. So one of them, I said, "You're going to be Pastor G." The other guy, I was like, "You're going to be the other two guys." Then, but basically they were lip singing. The video wasn't in sync. We didn't edit it in sync. It was just like when it's Pastor G's part to come out, I'll put the guy who's a bit chubby. And then if the other guy, the rapper and all. So one of the other guys, Davidson Gombora, is now a rapper, actually. But at that time, he was in grade 6.
Wow.
And that's that's a long time ago, you know.
Yes.
I was in high school. I think I was O-level at that time. And so we shot that. And then years later, almost 20 years later, you're doing a song with Pastor G. And I'm shooting the video this time, the real video of Pastor G. And I actually mentioned it to him a number of times that, this is taking me back to when we did something fake, but playing around, and I was learning how to edit. And so it's been a journey, and I guess some of the things that we do when we're playing around could actually happen later on.
Yeah, definitely. For me, that story just it's sort of like inspirational for me, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, who would have known what you would be up to 20 years from there? It's not like you had someone telling you one day you're going to be doing an actual music video with the Pastor G, So for me, it's like you're saying, Guti, you never know that, the things that you're doing when you're young, when the dreams that you have when you're young can actually come to pass when you're older. So it's encouraging. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So how did you feel when you were doing the actual music video?
Pressure. I think in one word, I think that's the explanation. But I think what helped was that we had done a few music videos before that, your music videos, and I think we had done like another music video before, like a few years later, before we started doing Hold On.
Yeah.
So I think the pressure was now just working with someone else who's not you, and actually doing a music video. Because like a music video involves a lot of planning. So we did the planning. We had the production schedule. We knew the shots that we wanted. We knew the concepts that we wanted. We had planned out everything. But obviously, I think now doing the actual things, and with booking the studio and with time involved, I think that's where the pressure comes in. And then now, you want to bring in like Pastor G for one day to do the shoot and not bring him back another day. You want to bring the makeup artist on one day and not bring them back, because it increases costs whenever you reshoot.
How did working in weddings, in the wedding industry, kind of help with the shoot for Nemi?
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, in terms of the pressure, weddings have a lot of pressure. And I think what weddings taught us was to think on our feet and know that there are no retakes. So the wedding is, you have to get it right the first time.
You can't miss.
You can't miss.
Shot.
You can't ask people. Unlike Pakis, I think Dopega, and it's not good. Apanacha Buddha. It's just good. Can they do it again?
Can they do it again? Yeah.
But actually, we try and make sure that everything is done right.
Yeah.
So I think weddings taught us how to plan, how to envision the day before it actually comes, how to coordinate with the client and talk to the client.
Yes.
And just because with weddings, you're dealing with the service providers, you're dealing with the client, you're dealing with their family, you're dealing with your own team. And then you've got your own equipment to worry about it if you've brought everything to the set.
Yeah.
So equipment checklist, talking to your team, getting them there on time.
Yes.
So I think having a team that's reliable and that shows up when you need them. So like with Nemi, we're working with Alec, A and B, and having him run around and
Yes.
make sure we've got everything we need on set allowed me to relax and focus on making sure the camera is working. We've got the settings that we need.
Yeah.
Plus, also, for when we're doing weddings, we'd go to the venue, see the venue,
Yes.
and prepare and see what we have and what we would need on the day.
Mm-hmm.
So for Nemi, we actually went to the venue and checked for everything that we wanted, tried out one of the concepts, and then on the day, when we came to shoot, we knew what we wanted
Yeah.
and what needed to be worked on.
Yeah. And a lot of things, obviously, things didn't go according to plan, right? I remember the roads were still getting, fixed and all of that. And so the routes that people were used to using to the location weren't, like in order. And so there was traffic and there was everything. So people were late. So it means that we had to postpone, or not postpone, but to delay starting the shoot.
So what's funny is that we actually had our tea before we actually started the first
Yes, because we had
shoot,
scheduled for tea to start at 10, right?
Yeah, after doing one of the concepts.
Yes, but then we actually had to we ate first before we actually started because of just people delaying coming to the location. Yeah, but that was quite an experience, and we definitely learned a lot from that. Okay, so maybe another question, a question that I have for you is, does your career in media kind of look like how you imagined it when you started?
Not really. Well, maybe it depends. I think before you start, you think you can choose what you want to do. I think I'll put it that way. So I thought it would be easy just to get a camera. You can start shooting movies or shoot a series for TV, film and television production. But it didn't really happen like that. And my journey kind of went around, like the Israelites' journey. It took them 40 years, to get to the promised land. I feel like I started off as a videographer. After that, I started learning graphic design and did that for some time. And then became a photographer and shot weddings as a photographer with a team doing video. But one of the things that you said, I think, when we were starting out with weddings and stuff, was that I shouldn't think about this as being the one to do everything. I should be willing to delegate and then have division of labor. Like how in film we've got different roles and this person is doing that. There's a director, there's a producer, there's a casting manager and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think after that conversation, I started to look at it a bit different. And I guess I then focused on my photography role as the main role for a long time. And only later on when we started doing Hold On music video and all the music videos that we've done, I now started to look at more of the filmmaking side. But I'd been doing the videography and filmmaking behind the scenes, from weddings and editing and all of that production and even working with corporates and all of that. But it wasn't like the main thing that people would see when they interact with me. It was more of behind the scenes. So it's only like when we started doing music videos that's where I was doing more of the filmmaking and the BTS and all of that. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you want to do when you were younger? What was the dream?
So when I started, I just wanted to be a filmmaker. I didn't want to be a photographer. It wasn't a decision that I had.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a graphic designer. But I feel like I went around and Bring It On. I think Bring It On showed me that I can use all of these skills: graphic design, photography, branding and marketing. So I would design the poster for Bring It On. I would film the actual event, take photos of the event, edit, deliver the video to the contestants and people, and do the whole branding, create the logo and all of that. So it brought together all those skills. So what I'm trying to say is that I felt like I was going around in circles instead of just going directly to what I wanted. But in that journey, we managed to get different equipment for different things.
And different skills
and
for different
different
things.
skills for different skills. So I normally say I'm like a jack of all trades and a master of none, like the saying. But recently I found out that that's not like the full quotation. There is more to that.
What's the rest of the
I don't know the
quotation?
exact way of saying
Yeah.
it, but it also says in the end it's better to be a jack of all trades and know something than to just know one specific thing and not know a lot of things. So a bit of everything that I know works to my advantage in certain ways. Yeah.
I think it says jack of all trades, master of none, but is better than a master of one.
Yeah, something like
Something
that.
like
Yes.
that.
So it was a bit encouraging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Because I guess, like you're saying, even though you didn't want to get into graphic designing, you didn't want to get into just strictly photography, but all those stops that you had before you actually started doing the filmmaking that you wanted to do, it gave you the skills, like skill stacking, right, that enable you right now to be able to do like the full production for Bring It On. So from the designing of a logo to the pictures to the video to the post-production and then to the marketing and branding of the whole thing. Those are all skills that you learned as you were just journeying through life and probably looking for the easiest thing to get you an income, for example. All of that God has used for you to be able to use it for his kingdom through Bring It On.
So you'll find that one of the things that I struggled with was to focus. For a long time, I really just wanted to have a focusing point. I just wanted to be known for one thing, like to be a master of something,
Yeah.
you know, so that if people think about me, they think about me with something specific. But I found out that all those things, it was not a loss. Like it wasn't something else. It wasn't a waste of time. And like you just said, that it had a place where I am now and where I am going. I can't really say I've arrived. I haven't really figured out exactly what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. But you find that I still enjoyed that stuff when I did it. When I was a graphic designer, I really enjoyed being a graphic designer. When I was a photographer, I really enjoyed being a photographer, except for the photo session.
I think the photo session
like,
would give you the most stress.
yeah. It gave the most stress, and it's right in between the ceremony and the reception, and there isn't enough time, and you've got the whole family, and with our African weddings, everyone is important.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that you've had this journey that has led you to do other things that were not what you were expecting. Like you mentioned at the beginning, that when you're younger, you think that you can just choose the one thing that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, but it didn't turn out that way, which is very similar to even my journey in terms of the whole music thing. It didn't turn out the way and I've had other stops in my life. Like, for example, the time that I was like, I stopped the music and I was helping you with the business and stuff, but that actually helped me learn the production side that I'm using even when I'm doing the music videos, you know. The things that we apply, like doing the storyboard, doing the planning and all of those things, I think I learned them from just working on the business side of like Masimba Leon photography. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. I think those lessons are very important. I don't know if you have any questions for me, anything that you want to ask. We always are talking, so I don't know if you haven't asked me a question that you yeah.
So maybe from my side, how do you do this? Like, bring someone in on Features by TaffyRue. Where do the questions come from? How do you even stuff that's not on the script, for example? How do you do it? Like, what makes you comfortable? How do you become comfortable in front of the camera? And how do you just do it? How do you do a podcast? Like, how did you transition, like from just being a musician
Yeah.
to actually being able to do a podcast?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I've answered a question similar to this before when we're talking, but I think we talked about it just now when I was talking about how we have done a lot of other things outside of our chosen career paths, basically. So you'll find that I like the whole in terms of who to invite. Okay, let me break your question down. In terms of who to invite, I feel like the people that I've invited to come to the podcast are people who are like at the top of my head. They are people who I have like a relationship with. I talk to them, not obviously not all the time or whatever, but I feel like every time we start a conversation, it's kind of natural. So that's how I've invited people to come through to the podcast. We decided to do, people from Bring It On because we already have some sort of relationship with them, but also just to provide a platform for them as well. And then in terms of how do I find myself being comfortable in front of a camera, I think it's my journey with teaching English online that has kind of helped me be a little bit more comfortable in front of a camera. So you'll find that being able to talk to complete strangers in front of a camera for all these years in the past kind of like built that resolve or that ability to be able to continue the conversation, to keep, to be on my feet when it comes to asking questions and all of that. So I guess like the journey that I've walked so far has enabled me to be, and also just being a musician as well and having to be in front of the camera. I think that is one thing that has also helped me. But it's just practice, I guess. Yeah, just the practice of being in front of the camera. I remember when we were doing interview sort of for like Bring It On, me talking about Bring It On contestants and stuff. That was practice. And then when I did the videos for Nemi as well, that also kind of gave me a lot of practice because I think we did a number of interviews for that series or the behind the scenes video that we did. Yeah, so I guess it's just practice in the things, the small things that I do outside of the podcast that enable me to I guess do the thing, and just I just thank God for giving me the courage to just go for it. I think I had a lot of fear in the past. I was very self-conscious and I was afraid of making mistakes. I think that was my biggest fear, that I think God has enabled me to kind of, obviously it doesn't mean I'm not completely afraid of making mistakes, but I think I'm better than I was in the past, and that has given me kind of like the courage to do this podcast. And yeah, I hope it helps someone in the process to not be afraid and to follow their dreams. Yeah.
Okay, so in the next 10 years, looking at the future,
Yeah.
what would you like to see happening?
So I've always been a planner, right? And I'm sure you
I know.
Well, I've always been a planner. So, I've always had that like 5-year plan or 10-year plan. But I think recently I've had this, I think watching a lot of content online, other people talk about different things and stuff. One thing that stood out to me from the videos that I've watched is that, we may have plans, but we need to be able to hold them loosely. because it might not be the plan that God has for my life. So, and I've seen it, pan out over the last 10 years of my life. I had a plan and I had a 10-year plan, but it's not what happened. Not to say that I don't have a plan, but just to say that if it happens in that way, that's great. If it's according to God's will, if God changes it completely, then that's okay as well. But just the overall thing that I would want to see in 10 years' time, I definitely want to see, Bring It On grow to, to be like on TV, like a proper TV reality show for entertainers, Christian entertainers. I definitely want to see more of the Christian entertainers fill the space. One thing that we've struggled to do is have people from Bring It On be, active in the industry. But I guess it also takes time, because I think 10 years ago, it's not what it looks like now. We're now actually starting to see young people who've come from Bring It On starting to make strides in the industry, like Anna Leon Jose and Aripa, people who are starting to do music and release it and win awards for it and things like that. So there has been 5, 6, 7 year waiting period before we see that happening. So obviously in 10 years time, hoping that the kids who've been coming to Bring It On are making strides in the industry. But I just want to be able to be part of the people who will really shift our entertainment industry to be more God glorifying. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it also goes with one of my dreams. Obviously, you already know this, but I think we've got a lot of work to do. Like I was hearing one of the podcasts that you were recording, and someone was saying that the culture and hip hop and young people want to do what they see on television and what they hear. And I think you were saying most of what they actually hear in the songs is not good. So most of the music is bad.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with television and now with online and the internet and access to whatever you can get. I think that's also something that concerns me when it comes to, let's say, our daughter. What does she watch online?
Yeah.
If she's got, let's say, a device in her hand, if the TV is on, what's on television?
Yeah.
Like, I think all of those things, at least with broadcast television, is controlled. You've got the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, for example, and you're hoping that they apply the policies and all the things that they have, so that inappropriate content doesn't come out on television. So we definitely want to see a shift in entertainment, in the entertainment industry, and I think Bring It On has got a big role that it can play in the young people that are coming through Bring It On, and they are actually beginning to get into the industry and create content. I think over time, like you said, we've actually seen people who've come through Bring It On getting into the industry, and people who we've worked with getting big opportunities, like So Profound, for example, being a judge, being an MC at Bring It On, being a judge, and now he's doing documentaries in the States and going back and forth and doing other things. Locally, he's also doing a lot of the documentaries and the storytelling. And so it's interesting to see people who we've worked with being in the industry, and we've seen a lot of people who've been part of Bring It On in one way or another, not necessarily being a contestant, but maybe being a judge or being an MC, and actually being in the industry. And also with a lot of the young people now going on television for interviews and with their art and all of that, I think that it's not really about Bring It On when they go out. I think the common message that's there is about the gospel,
Yeah.
representing God, doing whatever you do for God's
Yeah.
glory. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. From the podcasts that we've done so far, which one is the most memorable for you, or which ones stick out?
It's a bit hard because I edit some of the videos, so
Yeah.
yeah. So I go through almost, if not all of the podcasts. So it's a bit hard to pick. Normally, the last one would be the one on my on the top of my head
Yeah.
because that's the one I remember the most. But I think bits and pieces of what the guys have spoken about. So like, if we start with Michael Kalizi and him talking about how we can use music in the for the glory of God, and asking questions like, who decided this is right or this is wrong.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that he spoke about, and that's one of the parts that you use for the reels. And then looking at Domi, talking about these gifts being shared, and Vincent also talking about something similar. Oswald spoke a lot about, I think, rehearsing and the drug issue that's there, and it was like, anyone can do drugs. I can also do drugs. There's nothing special about doing drugs, but actually, making up your mind to do something that's important, that's purposeful,
Yeah.
and not just going with the flow and like doing something that's easy, like taking drugs. Resisting drugs is actually harder than just, so there's nothing really special about taking drugs. So like those four, got us started with the podcast, and I'm now thinking about them. And then you had Rona and NK
Yes.
and Brandon, you're talking about different things.
Yeah.
So I can't pick one. It's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
But I think I've enjoyed bits and pieces of everything that I've heard.
Yeah, and we're learning a lot. Yeah, I think it's great seeing how these young people think, what's on their mind, the dreams that they have, and even just seeing how, as Bring It On, or how as Mass and Taffy, we can actually come behind them and support what they're doing. As long as it's in line with the Word of God. So yeah, it's been an insightful series or season, and I'm looking forward to season 2. I think we've already come up with some names in terms of people who we want to come through, and I'm excited about that. And yeah, I can't wait to share the future conversations with the rest of the world.
And which part has been the most interesting of, let's say, if you're to pick one, or if you're to pick a topic or what you guys discussed, what stood out for you in these podcasts?
A lot stood out for me. One thing that stood out for me is that, in terms of the industry, not being friendly to the women, because when I was trying to come up with a list in terms of who to invite from the ladies, I'm like, oh, the list is short. So we definitely need to be empowering more and more talented young people, because they are out there. And obviously it's just that, the environment hasn't been conducive to their creative process. So it got me thinking in terms of how can I support young upcoming artists, female artists in the industry. But with that, in terms of the chats that I've had, we've had some very powerful conversations. The one with Rona got me thinking, or it just brought up memories of us trying to do our garden. And, just the process of growing something. And we've seen it, happen or pan out through our, our lives, in terms of the seeds that we've planted in the media industry, the seeds that we're planting in Bring It On, the seeds that we're planting in TaffyRue Music, and all of these ministries and Reconcile Media, that, they need to be nurtured and, watered, and have the right condition and the time as well for them to grow. So that episode really spoke to me. And also she was the first female. So I guess that's why I remember that quite well. And then also just the conversations I had with Nashelle, that was powerful in terms of social media and just being brave enough to just release the content, and even if just one person likes it, it's okay. Probably that is the one person who was meant to see it. So that even made me bolder to just release all the episodes and do the reels and just share, because I'm like, even if it's just one person who has been touched by the message, that's good enough. God can use that. We all know the story of Billy Graham. The person who ministered to him probably didn't know the life that he touched, but Billy Graham then ministered to millions. So even if I just play my small part, maybe the person that has watched one video of mine will then go and minister to the millions. So that was a very powerful one. And even just Brandon talking about AI and how it's a tool, that was quite interesting. Then obviously we've got Brandon Gobu. So I think we had two Brandons on in this season, Brandon Giro and Brandon Gobu.
I think the other one you can just call him BG.
Okay. BG, yes, yeah. BG. Just, talking about how he's applying his schooling in his art. I think a lot of times we don't see the connection of how our lives can actually contribute to the art that we're creating. Avril talking about mental health and all of that. It's like all the episodes are just powerful. And I can't wait to share even more exciting conversations with the world. Yeah. It was great chatting to you, Mas Leon.
Yes,
thank you so much for coming in front of the camera, not coming to the studio.
I'm
You're always here.
I'm always here. So thank you for allowing me to be in front of the camera. I think I feel better now as we're about to end.
You're supposed to have been relaxed from the beginning. But maybe we can always do some more podcasts and even just share our story. I think it would be helpful to somebody, a couple who's thinking about working together, or maybe someone who's thinking about getting into wedding videography or event producing. I think we've had some years of experience doing that together, and it would be worth sharing some of that knowledge. Thank you so much for bearing with us and watching us have a conversation in front of the camera. I do hope that you did pick something from the things that we were talking about in this final episode of Features by TaffyRue for Season 1. I cannot wait to share Season 2 with you. I think we're going to have some very exciting guests on there. And so subscribe, like the channel, share the content. If you find something helpful, share the content, leave a comment, and it will help us reach more people. Until the next season, see you. Goodbye. Take care.